is up, Inside Out. How is everyone doing tonight? Awesome. Well, my name is Klein. I am a senior at Round Rock High School. Go Rock. Where are the Dragons at? There we go. And honestly, I would say I was in a great mood, but I'm kind of not, because Round Rock actually took our first L to Vandy this Friday night. So, yeah. We're getting over it. It's only been like 2 days, so we're like slowly working through it. So don't talk to us about it because it's still definitely too soon. But next week for us is homecoming. I know a lot of Cedar Park Lander schools had homecoming. How was it? Good? Win your homecoming games? Yeah? Okay, maybe some of us did. There we go. All right, so for us at Round Rock, our homecoming is like the last one possible. So ours is this week. And since it's senior year, I kind of feel this bigger amount of pressure for like what my mom and like my overall should look like and stuff like that, because it's senior year and it's memorable. I feel like there's this expectation that my mom this year is going to look like this. And I don't think, it's not happening, guys. I'm just letting you know. I think for real, like, I think my mom this year is going to look like this. At least that's where we're headed. I haven't started it, and I'm kind of about like just doing a ribbon or something, because like the other thing is just too much work. For overalls, how many of you in the room, like senior girls, did overalls for homecoming? Awesome. Well, that's a thing at Round Rock that we do too. And again, I feel like the expectation is that my overalls are going to look something like this. And again, I'm just letting you know, I don't think that's going to happen. I went to Goodwill this week and got some, but like they only have like super big sizes left. So I think I'm going to look like this for homecoming, the next picture, and I'm kind of okay with it. That's how it's going to be. They're like huge, so I'll try to like pin it or like cut it somehow, but we'll figure it out. But anyways, I am excited to be here, even though we're still getting over the Vandy loss. I am in a good mood today, and I'm excited to be kicking off or finishing up this series tonight, the final part of I Have Questions. Now, I think if you're in the room tonight and it's your very first time at Inside Out, you picked a great Sunday to be here, because we're still 2 weeks away from House of Torment. So if you want to get registered for House of Torment, there's still plenty of time to do that. And then also, this has been one of my favorite series that we've actually ever done at Inside Out. This will be the fourth and final part. So if it's your first time, you get to be a part of this series, which I think is great. And throughout this series, the past 4 weeks, what we've been doing is we've been answering, kind of tackling some of the most difficult questions when it comes to faith, when it comes to religion and Christianity, the whole thing. So that's what we've been doing throughout this series. We've been answering tons of questions. In fact, last week, we actually did a Q&A with Jordan and Jeremy, and that's up on our YouTube channel. If you want to watch any of our messages because you missed part of this series but you like tonight, definitely go look on our YouTube channel. You can rewatch any message we've ever done at Inside Out. But tonight, I'm actually going to be answering 2 questions. The first one is a question that we've actually talked about and spent time on at Inside Out before. We actually did a whole message about it a couple years back. I think like my sophomore year, we did a message about it. And that's the first question I want to talk about. The second question is one we've actually never talked about at Inside Out before. Not really for any reason. We just haven't gone there with any of our series. So tonight, I'm excited that we get to kind of talk about that, break that down. And our first question, I'm only going to spend about 5 or 10 minutes on, but it's a big question. It's going to lead to where we're going tonight. And I'm kind of biased. It's a personal question, but it's this one right up here. Is Texas football back? What do y'all think? I'm a Longhorn. I've been a Longhorn. Here's my proof for you guys. Hook 'em. So I've been a Longhorn for a while. I would say Texas football is back, but that's actually not the first question that I want to talk about at all tonight. I just wanted to put that out there. I do think we're back. If you disagree, like, let's talk after. But hook 'em. So the actual first question I want to talk about tonight is actually a much bigger question. It's a lot more serious, and it's a question that I've asked myself before. It's a question I bet tons of you have asked or thought about before, and it's this question right up here, and it's, how do we know that Christianity is the only way? Now, this is a really, really big question, and I'm only going to spend about 5 or 10 minutes on it because, like I said, we've talked about it in the past, and it's just going to help us to where we're going tonight. But to answer this question, or attempt to answer this question, I want to first talk about something called mutual exclusivity. Now, this is kind of a big idea, so I have the definition up here too. Mutual exclusivity is the quality in 2 things of both not being possible at the same time. In other words, something can't be true but also untrue at the same time, because those 2 things disagree with each other, and so they can't be true. So 2 things that disagree with each other can't both be true. So if I were to tell you that 2 plus 2 equals 4, that means that 2 plus 2 can't also equal 6. Now, the best way that I've ever heard this described has to do with a cell phone. So let's just say, for example, you were trying to reach me, you were trying to call my cell phone. At the end of the day, there's only one phone number that will reach my cell phone. Now, the example of this is that because truth is, by definition, is exclusive. So only one of these phone numbers is going to reach my cell phone. Now, for this example, let's just say that phone number is this right here, 678-999-8212. Now, if you know where that's from, awesome, great job. So let's just say that's my phone number, and tonight you were trying to call my phone. Now, there are 10 billion different phone numbers that you could try to call to reach my phone, but at the end of the day, only one of them will work, and only one of them will make my phone ring, because truth, by definition, is exclusive. Now, 9 times out of 10, I won't answer my phone because I keep it on Do Not Disturb, so my friends just know, don't call her because she won't answer. But truth, by definition, is exclusive, so only one of those phone numbers will reach my phone. You could try as many different combinations, mix up these numbers, whatever way you wanted to. But at the end of the day, truth is exclusive, so only one of those things will work because the others disagree with that one thing. Now, I think this idea of mutual exclusivity also applies to the idea of religion or beliefs or belief systems. In other words, I would say that at the end of the day, because most religions disagree with each other, I would say that there is one religion that is the right way. When we think about it just for a second, like logically, the Christian belief about heaven and the afterlife cannot be true if Hindus' belief about reincarnation is also true, because those two ideas disagree with each other. So at the end of the day, they can't both be true because truth, by definition, is exclusive. Now, I'm not saying if someone disagrees with you or believes something else that we need to start World War III. Like 100% of the time, I think we should respect other people's beliefs. I'm all for you believing what you want to believe, but I think at the end of the day, if I believe something and someone else believes something that disagrees with that, one of us is right and one of us is wrong, because truth by definition is exclusive. So back to our question that we started with, how do we know that Christianity is the only way? Well, for me personally, I can only make a case for Christianity because that is what I believe. And for me personally, the reason that I think Christianity is the most reliable or the most trustworthy is because of the overwhelming amount of evidence of the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Now, this was a big thing for me for a while. I was like, how do I know that it's specifically Christianity? Like, if there is one right thing, that's awesome. But how do I know that it is the one that I believe? For me, a monumental moment in my faith was when I read the book, The Case for Christ. They actually have a movie about it on Netflix. If you want to watch, we've talked about it before. It's a really great movie on Netflix. I prefer the book, and in the book, the author that writes the book, he ends up kind of setting out to disprove Christianity because his wife became a Christian. He didn't like it. It almost led to them getting a divorce. And so he starts flying around the country, interviewing different professors, different professionals that worked in different areas, and he starts trying to disprove Christianity. And at the end of his months and months and months of research, he comes to the conclusion that Jesus was alive, was crucified, and came back to life. So the author of this book ends up putting his faith and trust in Jesus Christ and becoming a Christian at the end of this book. And it's an incredible story. I definitely think you should watch the movie. But for me, that was just a monumental moment in my faith, was hearing about the overwhelming evidence for Jesus Christ. I mean, it's just crazy to think about the eyewitnesses that saw Jesus alive, saw him crucified, and then spoke to him again. There's tons of written testimonies of people that tell this story of Jesus' life, who saw him alive, saw him crucified, and then saw him again. Maybe the most convincing for you is the story of the 12 disciples, how almost all 12 of them gave up their life and were murdered for Christianity and for what they believed about Jesus Christ. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I would not lose my life or die for something that I knew wasn't true. There was a reason that these people thought that was true. It's convincing to me when I think about the life of Paul. Paul dedicated his life to killing Christians. Like, he was all out against Christianity. But then when he came face to face with a living, breathing Jesus, he had a 180 in his life and ended up dedicating it to bringing people to Jesus, which is fascinating. I mean, imagine dedicating your life to wiping out something, and then a little bit later in your life, now you're bringing people to that. For me, another really convincing evidence for the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ is the fact that Jesus' own brother, James, didn't believe that Jesus was God, didn't believe in anything he was saying until after he saw Jesus crucified and then alive again. For me personally, I think it would take a lot to think my brother was God. I mean, if my brother was God, I think we'd be in a bad place. This is my brother in middle school. And if he was God, like, I would be worried for us. And it would take a lot for me to think that my brother Mason was God. It just would. So that's crazy to me to think about James. Totally out against his brother, did not think that he was God, thought he was crazy. But when he saw him die and he saw him alive again, that was when he put his faith and trust in Jesus Christ as God. Now, for me, the most convincing evidence of that, and the reason that I believe that Christianity is the most reliable, is because if a guy can predict his own death and resurrection and pull it off, I think we should go with whatever he says. If a guy can say, hey, in a little bit, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna be crucified on a Roman cross, but we're gonna see each other again later, and he pulls it off, I don't know about you guys, but I want to know what he has to say. Like, I want to sit down and have a conversation with him because, like, he just rose back from the dead. That's weird. That's confusing. But at the end of the day, I think if a guy can do that, predict his own death and resurrection and pull it off, that we should at least listen or hear him out. For me, that is the reason that I think Christianity is the most reliable or the most trustworthy. Now, the whole idea of the resurrection, I get that's a really big idea, so maybe for some of us in the room, we have more questions about that. I know I'd probably be in the boat too, where I still have some questions about that too as well. We actually did an entire message over the resurrection last spring during Easter, so if that's something you still have questions on or you want to talk more about, we have a whole message on that on our YouTube playlist as well if you want to take a look at that as well. But for the sake of time tonight, I kind of want to move on to our second question, the question that we're actually going to be camping on for a little bit longer. That first question was just kind of trying to get us there. Now, that was just a 5 to 10 minute kind of in a nutshell answer to that question. If that didn't satisfy your question, that's okay. This is just kind of to get the conversation started. But the real question that I want to spend more time on that we've never talked about at Inside Out, like I said before, is this question right up here. And it's a really big question that I think many of us have had, it's this one right here. Does it really matter what I believe? In other words, at the end of the day, isn't religion just kind of like an opinion? Like, it's something everyone has thoughts on, everyone has an opinion about, but isn't it like your political party? It's something we should just kind of not really talk about, but everyone has it, but let's just respect everyone and let's just not talk about it. Isn't it kind of like your favorite color, your favorite restaurant? It's just a trait or a characteristic. It's not really important. There's no like weight or value with what you believe in. Wouldn't that be true? For me, I would actually disagree with all of those things. For me, when I hear this question, does it really matter what I believe? I think the short and sweet answer to that is absolutely yes. I think at the end of the day, yes, it does matter what you believe. Now, the reason I think it matters what you believe is because the implications of that question. In other words, what hangs in the balance of that question. I think there are much greater implications of what you believe than your favorite color. I think at the end of the day, if you were picking between like pink or green and you picked pink, well, that's awesome. You'd probably just buy some more pink things or just buy some more green things, but there's not huge implications to that question. Like, that wouldn't change your life. At least it wouldn't change my life, what my favorite color is. But what I believe has so much bigger implications. In fact, when we think about God and Christianity and religion, the God of the universe in Christianity promises to walk by us, walk next to us through what we are going through. That's a huge implication. In fact, in Galatians, Paul writes about some of the actual just every day-to-day implications that we get to experience as a result of a relationship with Christ. In Galatians chapter 5, it says this, but the fruit of the Spirit, in other words, what it looks like, what are the implications of a relationship with Christ? Those are love, joy, peace, forbearance, which is a fancy word for patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things, there is no law. In other words, what Paul is saying here, the implications of Christianity aren't just someday. They're not just heaven or eternal life. There are actual implications of a relationship with Christ that start tomorrow, that start today if you enter into a relationship with him. It's an everyday sort of thing. It's not just someday, hey, maybe we'll go to heaven. That's the whole reason we believe in Jesus. No, there are actual everyday implications that come as a result of a relationship with Christ. And some of those being these ones right up here, that we get to experience love for people in a different way, that we get to experience joy, not just like a fleeting joy of this world, but actual joy that lasts, These are so many other ones: faithfulness, goodness, gentleness, peace, forbearance, self-control. So many different implications that we get to experience, that we get to kind of grow in and learn about as a result of being in a relationship with Christ. Now, not even just practical everyday ones, but even on a bigger picture. If there is no God, and if Christianity is all just fake, if Jesus never existed, if this is all just one made-up story, and there's no creator, that means at the end of the day, we're just cells. At the end of the day, we're just an accident, just biology, it just happened. There wasn't a creator that intentionally put us here, that we're just kind of ants on this spinning rock. And we live a really short life, and it doesn't even really matter because we can't really influence the universe. We can't really make a difference because at the end of the day, it was just an accident. We're just cells. In other words, there would be no meaning or purpose behind our lives if there is no God, if Jesus never existed, if this whole story was made up. So the implications of this question and what we believe about God and Jesus, the whole story, what we believe about that has huge implications because it's either saying that people have incomprehensibly little value or are incomprehensibly valuable. It's either saying that we were just cells and that we're just living life. There's no hope to see our loved ones in the future. There's no afterlife. It's just what we have on earth. We have no purpose. We have no value. Or the alternative to that, what Jesus says about that, is that we are incomprehensibly valuable. That we are the most valuable thing. That God created each and every one of us super specifically to be the people that we are today. That we are His favorite creation. That every single person, the people to the right or left of you, your friends, your family, every single one of us has incomprehensible value. That we should be loved as if we are the most valuable thing on this earth. In fact, there's a verse in 1 John where it talks about this idea of God's love, and it says this right here. It says, "This is how God showed His love among us. He sent His one and only Son into the world that we might live through Him." It says, "This is not love, not that we loved God, but that He loved us and sent His Son as an atoning sacrifice for our sins." Dear friends, since God so loved us, we also ought to love one another. In other words, because He loved us so much, because He created us, we have incredible purpose and incredible value. He sent His one and only Son to show us that. And now what we need to do with that is show other people that as well, to treat other people as if they are incredibly valuable as well. So back to that question that we started with right here, does it really matter what I believe? Like I said at the beginning, I think my answer to that is absolutely yes, because what hangs in the balance of that decision, because of the implications of that decision, the implications that don't just start in heaven and don't just start way down the road, but they start today. All of the different emotions and things that we get to experience. I mean, things like love and joy and peace, those are things that people will chase for the rest of their life. I know so many people that I can see already like chasing those things in life. I mean, it's natural for all of us to do. Chasing after joy or chasing after self-worth, like those are the things that God says, hey, you can experience these right now as a result of a relationship with me. And even on a bigger scale, like if this is real, if God is real, that means that people are the most valuable thing. I would say it does matter because of the implications and what hangs in the balance of that question. So tonight, as we wrap up this series, before we kind of tie a knot, wrap it up, what I want to do is I want to leave you with a couple of questions for you specifically. I know over the course of this series, we've answered tons of questions. I wouldn't be surprised if you actually had some new questions based on what we've talked about some of the last couple of weeks. Maybe you have some new doubts or things you're confused on or want to talk more about. But to wrap up this series, what I do want to do is leave you with two questions. Now, I'm aware there's a couple different groups in the room. There's a group of you in the room that would probably call yourself a Christian. Now, if you're in the room and you would call yourself a Christian, the question I have for you is this right here. Is there an area of your life that you still need to let your faith infiltrate? In other words, throughout the last couple of weeks, as you have been learning more in this series, have you realized that there's an area of your life maybe that you haven't yet let your faith infiltrate? There's an area of your life you've kind of given God some of it, but you've kept other parts of it away. Is there an area for you? If someone on the outside of your life were to look in, would they be able to tell that you are a believer, that you are a Christian, based on the way that you treat people, based on the way that you talk about people, when they're in the room or when they're not in the room? Does the life that you live reflect the faith that you have? For the group in the room that would say, you don't know what you believe, you don't know how you feel about Christianity or Jesus, my question for you, my challenge for you is this right here. Do you know the reason for what you believe? Even if it's that you don't believe, do you know the reason for that? When someone kind of challenges your faith or challenges what you believe, do you just kind of throw up a defense? You have questions or statements that you just use to kind of shut down the conversation because you're okay with what you believe? Or have you actually tried to answer some of the questions that you have? Have you actually tried to dive in or research or ask questions or talk about or have discussions about the questions that you have? Because I think finding answers for some of those questions could have huge implications in your life. I have huge respect for the guy that wrote Case for Christ. I mean, he was like, I am out on religion, but I am going to find out why I feel that way. I'm going to know why I believe that there is no God. I mean, think about the implications of that. He ended up turning his life around because of the answers that he started looking for. Now, I don't know about you. I feel like this is true for everyone in the room, but at the end of the day, if I am going to put my life behind something, Christianity or not Christianity, I want to know if it's the right thing. Now, if it isn't Christianity, I would want to know that. I don't want to dedicate my life to what is the wrong answer. I want to dedicate my life to what is the most reliable and trustworthy and what has the most answers for me. Now, for you, if that's not Christianity, I think that's great. That's fine. I think you just need to know the answers, the reasons for why you believe what you believe. In just a second, we're going to wrap up and go to small groups. And I think small groups is the best way to continue this conversation. If you have questions or you have doubts or worries or confusions or things you want to talk more about at the end of this series, I think small groups is the best way to do that. I think it's the safest place to do that. Bring your questions. This is the safest place to push back, the safest place to wonder more about Christianity or God or religion, all of those things. So in just a second, we're going to wrap and go to small groups where you guys can do that. But before, I would love to pray for us. Dear God, thank you so much for this day. Thank you so much for Inside Out, God. And thank you so much for this place where we can come together and we get to hear about you. That we have a place like small groups here, God, where there's people that are for us. And places where we can ask our difficult questions. Where we can come with our doubts, we can come with our confusions, God, but we're able to talk about them. We're able to learn more about you. God, I pray over this time tonight that we can continue to learn more about you and find the answers to what we believe, God. I pray this all in your son's name. Amen.